This week on BSD Now, Allan and I are back from AsiaBSDCon. We have an interview with Brad Davis about the new packaging-based call for testing. We'll be sharing our thoughts and stories on how the week went, along with updating you on the latest news. BSD Now, episode 133, the Tokyo Debrief, recorded March 16th, 2016. Hey, I'm your host, Chris Moore.
And I have the plague.
Yes, right. That's right. So we are just fresh back from AsiaBSDCon, in case you didn't know. So Allan is a little deader than me, partially because he got a cold, I think. What was it, the day we left or the day before?
Just before that. I got it the morning I had to give my talk.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's always pleasant. Hey, I don't know if you need to move your camera down a little bit, by the way, Allan. But
I don't think so. Oh, sorry.
A little,
that's the camera
okay.
nobody else sees.
That's just kind of indicative of how this is going today.
Right. Sorry. That's the camera that only you see, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Well, hey, I can see you now, Allan. So that's great.
Of my ceiling.
It's been one of those, it's been an interesting trip.
Yes.
So we're both a little wiped out, so apologies in advance if you see me yawning a bit. I have not had much sleep yet, and of course, Allan's voice may give out at some point, and he's still recovering. But all in all, we wanted to give you our thoughts. Like, we had to rush back here and tell you how it went, and of course, there's a lot of news that happened while we're gone, so we need to get into that, and we'll save some for next week, but we want to try and hit a few things this week so it doesn't pile up on us too much. But without further ado, I guess we'll just kind of get into our AsiaBSDCon wrap-up first. So, gosh, what is there to say? There was so much good stuff there, but the Dev Summit this year was fantastic.
Yeah, we actually got quite a bit of stuff talked about.
We did. I really enjoyed hearing some of the talk on Jenkins because I'm fascinated by that because that's what I'm doing for PCBSD and IX and FreeNAS. So that was good to hear and see what the FreeBSD projects got going on there.
Yeah, I really liked Baptiste's idea for a simpler way to integrate Fabricator and Jenkins rather than the more complicated route that we had been faced with.
For those who don't know, what he means is, so Fabricator's reviews.freebsd.org, and basically they want a facility where when somebody publishes a patch for review, it can also be pulled into Jenkins and a build done of it, and hopefully some kind of feedback provided to Fabricator saying, hey, this build was successful, make universe ran properly, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So
especially
it's safe to go in from that standpoint.
Now, the biggest place where this would benefit is people who aren't already contributors or committers and don't necessarily know the whole flow to do it, or don't have access to the universe machines to do it. Although I think at first, because of the way Baptiste architected it, it'll be for committers only. But either way, being able to just have that little stamp on your patch saying, hey, this has been build tested and is good, I think will be a benefit to everybody.
That's right. So for those who are heavy Git users, that would be the equivalent of, say, sending a pull request in that automatically triggers a build, and then you get a check mark.
Yeah.
Like this pull request
was it
at least
Travis CI or whatever it's called?
Yeah. And there's a few different ways to do that. But that would be really cool to see. We also had a spirited discussion about packaging base and what all that entailed. So we'll talk a little bit about it. We don't want to give it all away because we also have an interview today with Brad Davis.
Yes, and about, I wrote quite a few notes for the article about packaging base later in the show as well.
That's right.
What else did we talk about? I missed, they talked a bit about networking and a bunch of other topics, but I was at the dtrace tutorial, which was actually very good.
That's right.
And I had some good feedback to give back to George Neville to improve it depending on the target audience. What he had was great if you were already a programmer. But if you were just a sysadmin type, it's like I would have done these couple of things differently and spent more time on this and less on that and so on. And so maybe we'll end up with 3 different versions of that course in the end.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, are they going to be doing that one again at Canada?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you want to get on that and go through the same course that Allan did, you'll want to get signed up for it soon. Don't wait. Don't wait until it's full. Let's see. So the second night we had a BeehiveCon, which unfortunately you didn't really get to come to.
No, it conflicted with the dtrace tutorial.
Yeah, but BeehiveCon was pretty good. So big congratulations to Michael Dexter for organizing, getting that all arranged, and of course to Alan Jude for providing the food. And that was, I think, 1 out of 4 or 5 bento boxes we had that weekend.
Yeah.
So, but they were all a little different.
Yes.
Like different things inside them. Each time was a mystery, and of course they were very good.
Yes.
So they always do a good job with that. But yeah, BeehiveCon was really cool. It was neat to hear what's happening in the world of virtualization. That's where they announced the UEFI GOP support has landed as well.
Well, it hasn't landed yet, but it's almost ready.
It's almost ready. So they officially kind of took the wraps off it, though, and told people this is happening.
Yeah, so that's Beehive will basically have a VNC server built in, and you'll be able to access the graphical console, meaning you can do an install of Windows without having to spin up a custom ISO first. Although you still need a custom ISO for older versions of Windows to provide the VirtIO driver. But, it can be a standard. You can get a standard ISO that has the VirtIO driver. You don't need one that's customized with your installation preferences.
That's right. So that's definitely been a much needed and requested feature. So we're excited to see that. I imagine that'll land here in the near future. Should be included for 11.
That's the goal.
Imagine. Yeah. So that's going to be a good one, and maybe we'll see more of that at BSDCon. Maybe they'll have enough working and out there we can see a demo, which would be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that one. Oh, let's see what else. So that's the first couple days of Dev Summit stuff we did in BeehiveCon. Oh, they talked. We had to talk about OpenBSD's VMM stuff happening at BeehiveCon as well, which we're going to talk about that in a minute with the news story.
Yeah, I think there was some stuff about OpenBSD and Zen as well.
It was stuff that we've covered in the previous weeks in the news about how it's supported now, and you can run OpenBSD and EC2 and all that.
And then there was talk from the Zen people about Zen DOM 0 on FreeBSD. So that's hosting virtual machines on FreeBSD with Zen.
That's right. So, and I actually had a talk with a Roger about graphics pass-through for Zen. And it needs some playing with. He thinks it may work, but we need to look at it. He said we'd have to use the facility that you use for Beehive at the moment, where you put some settings into loader.conf telling it to ignore a second video card.
Right.
And so then as long as it's ignored, you should be able to pass it through in Zen. So we'll see how that works.
Yes.
I know. I need to try that, right? That could be very exciting. So for those who don't know, what I'm talking about is a PCBSD box with using the Intel integrated video, and then throwing a second card in, probably an NVIDIA card, passing that through to a Windows guest for playing games with acceleration, which could be really, really cool, because now I can snapshot the Windows guest and roll it back after, the kids install Minecraft mods or viruses or whatever I don't want. So it should be very nice. Oh, let's see. So that was again Dev Summit first couple days, and then we actually got to the conference, which the conference was pretty good. I think I've posted a bunch of pictures up on Facebook. I didn't tweet them. I probably should have done that, but they're up on Facebook, and you could take a look at some of the booths. For example, the NetBSD guys brought out their full slew of gear this time. I know we've talked about it in the past.
We always get to see pictures, but never got to see it in person, and got to see some this time, including they had one where they had an old Super Nintendo controller.
Yep, like a Super Famicom controller was the Japanese one.
Connected to a Raspberry Pi running FreeBSD, and when you pressed each different button on the controller, it would say or do different things.
That's right.
Like one would tell you the date and...
Yeah, it was pretty neat. So it was cool because it was such a home job. It was like running a little piece of Tupperware where you cut out holes for it. It was pretty awesome.
Yes.
But they had some neat stuff. We had a pretty cool raffle. So people donated a little bit of money to the FreeBSD Foundation, and they raffled off 2 of the Minnow boards that PFSense donated, which had the the AsiaBSDCon daemon in Japanese garb.
Laser etched into it. It was very nice.
Yeah. Very nice looking. And then they also auctioned off 2 OpenSUS.
Desigio boards,
So one of them was the complete unit with the case and everything. The other one was just the bare board.
The bare board one, though, was the developer edition, and so it's actually faster.
Ooh. Okay.
It's like a couple hundred megahertz faster and has a couple more things, because it's meant for designing software for that hardware, whereas the other one's meant, used in production. So both of those are interesting.
Which I might mention, I didn't win any of them, and I'm a little disappointed. But
Warren won one of them, though.
He did. So he won the Minnow board.
Yep.
But a little bummed I didn't win anything. One of these years it's going to happen.
Yep.
I mean, you go to these things 10 years, eventually the odds will be in your favor and you'll win one.
Yeah, enough people that I know quite well have won. I remember Dan won the other year, and then Michael won in Sweden, and
It's time.
Yep.
It's time. But anyway, congratulations to the winners. The conference was great. So they had 3 tracks, so 3 separate rooms going on simultaneously. Of course, the hallway track was very active. I spent more time, I think, just in the lounge talking to people and just doing things in there, which is great.
Yes, it was quite productive, and I think I attended the fewest talks I've ever managed to get to.
Yep. Well, and to be fair, we did a lot of interviews.
Yes, we did.
Too,
so you guys can look forward to that.
Yeah, so you'll get the first one today, but we did manage to snag 6 interviews. I mean, and that's a fair chunk of time there that we were upstairs doing interviews, which worked really well. Thank you, Hiroki, for providing a room where we could go aside and do the interviews in the quiet, which was nice.
Yes.
But you guys will enjoy those. Of course, we'll air the first one today, and we will scatter the rest of them throughout the upcoming weeks. So you can stay tuned for those, and you can tell we're together and in a different place. So it was cool. I opened the console, so maybe you can see some of Tokyo out the back window. So it's pretty cool. But let's see. So anything else you want to throw out on the conference? Very well attended.
The keynote by Steve Bourne again was quite good. Different than the one at BSD Can.
Yep. We walked a lot.
Yes.
It was interesting. Everyone was at different hotels, so there was a lot of gathering the groups up and all the ducks going a certain way. You know, it was fun. Of course, Akihabara trips were great.
Yes.
Found some neat little pieces of hardware, including let me see if I got it here. So I have one of those thin X1 carbons that has a dongle required for Ethernet and only has 2 USB ports. So I found this little dude in Tokyo. So it's USB 3.0 with 3 additional USB 3 slots and a gigabit Ethernet, all on one dongle. So I'm going to start using that. And I've already played with it. It works great in FreeBSD. But those are the kind of cool things you can get while you're wandering around Tokyo's electric district.
I also spent a bit of time in one of the arcades I had never really ventured into before, but Brian Callahan was showing us around a bit and some of the stuff.
Did you see any of the big games? And by big, I mean like 20 systems all networked together and the huge monitors and TVs all connected so you can play like multiplayer?
These were all the like old-fashioned arcade style games.
Old-fashioned arcades, okay. Because there was a couple I wandered into last year where they had these like, I guess, flying and wargaming games, but you play against other people. So that one of them had a huge world map, almost like playing the biggest game of Risk ever, right? And so you're conquering the world, and it shows on the live map how you're doing, but you're sitting there in your little console. It's pretty cool. I wish we had arcades like that here. Of course, I would waste a lot of quarters, but either way, it looked fun.
Yep.
Let's see. Food was great.
Yes.
Company was great. The best food to eat is the little hole in the wall where they don't speak any English, and sometimes you get a picture menu, sometimes you don't. So sometimes you're just guessing and hoping for the best. But either way,
the one night we've just after the D-Trace tutorial, because it went to like 8:00 at night, and so everybody else had already left. And so I just grabbed a couple of the people that were at the tutorial with me and was like, all right, let's find a place somewhere on this hill on the way down to the train station. And we found a place, and we're like, well, this looks like good. And we had like yakitori and some other stuff, and it's like, oh, this is great.
It was awesome. So I know the flight kills us every year, and it is a long way to go for us Westerners, but definitely encourage you to try it out next year. You have a lot of time. They announced that next year's one will be around the same time, so you can figure this time around March-ish next year. So maybe start planning ahead, because that's a big one. And of course, if you want to have them pay for it and you have something cool to talk about, maybe start thinking about your proposal for next year if you want to give a talk, because there's definitely some good talks. I'm already thinking about mine for next year, so it's going to all work out. But yeah, definitely a good one, and our thanks and appreciation to all those who worked so hard to put it on. So Allan, Scale Engine live streamed it. Do we have any idea about the videos though? Who's putting those up?
That'll be Hiroki, the people that did the live streaming. Like we just provided the facility. They had the cameras and stuff. The thing they noted was this year they got newer cameras that record directly to SD cards. So they have video files on an SD card now. Last year, they recorded to like tape, and they had to re-encode them into MP4s, and it was a lot of work. So expect this year's videos to be up much sooner than previous times. In fact, they might come out before last year's videos.
Right? Well, that's fantastic. So, of course, we'll keep an eye on that, and when they do eventually land, we'll bring those to you. And I know not everyone can watch stuff live because of the time zone differences and whatnot, but this will be a great way if you get caught up on some of those great talks. Okay, anything else you want to mention on that, Allan, before we hop into our couple news items here?
I'm sure there's a bunch of things we forgot, but we'll get to them.
It'll come to us throughout the next couple of weeks, maybe next week after we've slept on it a little more. Okay, so let's get right into a couple of the news items here. So first up, the headline, and I've been waiting for this. We've all been waiting for this, but in FreeBSD, the Haswell graphics support has finally landed in current, which will of course make it into 11.0 release. So this is a big one. We've been waiting quite a while. Thanks for everyone who's been working and testing and trying out and reporting bugs. But in particular, this update brings the DRM and i915 driver code up to date with Linux kernel 3.8.13. So that's still a little bit behind, but enough work was done that it should make it easier now to do future updates. So they're starting to put the shims in and whatnot to make it easier to pull directly from upstream. So, and speaking of that, work has already started on updating it to Linux kernel 3.9. Yep. So it appears that that's even on its way now too. And I imagine shortly after, Broadwell support and whatnot will probably start landing as well.
Yep. I think so, Broadwell is in the 3.10 somewhere.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be 3.9 first, and then Broadwell will probably be in the next revision right after.
Yep.
But either way, that's exciting. And I need the Broadwell for my little X1 Carbon. That'll be nice. And I can do presentations on it.
Yep.
But anyway, that'll be good. So, of course, it looks like it does not require you to do any sysctl or tunable settings. So you don't need to use the i915 preliminary hardware support tunable.
Which I think
to work. You should be able to try
back on Linux 3.8, I think you did have to do that to get Haswell.
Haswell, yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like it's just there and just works. So if you'd like to try it out, of course, bless you.
Sorry.
This month's March image of PCBSD already has that. It's probably a couple small ribs behind what just landed, but it is there and it's in our current March images. And of course, next month we will have the stuff straight from FreeBSD current.
Yes.
So we won't be building off of the graphics patch or base anymore. We might do, once they get 3.9 and Broadwell support in their project branch, maybe we'll start pulling that for current. But I may wait until after 11.0 lands. It just depends on the timing of it. I don't want to pull that in right before 11.0 if that's not actually going to go into 11.0. We want to wait and let people try running the release for a bit first, fix bugs there. But anyway, stay tuned for that. I'm sure we will bring a lot more info about that in the future as things start happening.
In particular, I think there's a thread on the mailing list about ensuring that it doesn't affect battery life on Sandy Bridge laptops.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Good to know. So anyway, start playing with that soon. If you haven't already, I know a bunch of our users have. So thank you for sending in those bug reports. Of course, the developers appreciated that. Okay, so we did mention BeehiveCon a little bit and how they gave an update on OpenBSD's VMM and VMD. So we have a link here to a BeehiveCon website where Mike gave a presentation kind of giving us an overview of where they're at. So during AsiaBSDCon, this all happened, and he explained a little bit how work is ongoing with VMM. But one of the nice things we need to mention, of course, for those who weren't there, BeehiveCon was expanded this year, now covers all virtualization on BSD. So that's why we're talking about OpenBSDs here. And including OpenBSD's VNM, there was a talk on Zen, DOM0, Zen DOM-U, DOM-U for OpenBSD, and then, of course, OpenBSD's VMM, in addition to FreeBSD's Beehive. So this is kind of just turning into the whole virtualization on BSD conference in general, which is good stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I didn't make it to BeehiveCon because it conflicted with the dtrace tutorial, but I know in the vendor summit there was a presentation from Microsoft about running FreeBSD and OpenBSD in the Azure cloud. I don't know if that was if they talked about that at all at BeehiveCon or not.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So definitely the Azure stuff was part of that, and Hyper-V and all that. So yeah, definitely a lot of good virtualization talks there. So a little update on VMM though. So VMM actually is a pretty recent thing. It started in Brisbane at the 2015 hackathon in Australia not too long ago. So work continued on through the summer and fall thanks to some funding by the OpenBSD Foundation, which decided to back this work. So that's really cool. They're making such fast progress on it. So the presentation, though, talked about a bunch of different things, and they said, of course, why not just port Beehive over? I mean, FreeBSD's got it. And Mike had a good answer on that.
Yeah,
different targets.
He said it looked like it would take about the same amount of effort to port Beehive to OpenBSD than to start something new, because what they actually wanted were a bunch of the things Beehive specifically decided not to try to do, which is support for really old hardware, a lot of support for i386, which was only kind of hacked together into Beehive, and I think it's FreeBSD only for x86 or i386. And they wanted nested virtualization, basically all the things Beehive decided not to do in order to get better at to focus on the stuff people use more often.
Well, yeah, focus on, I guess, future work going forward and enterprisey type stuff.
Right.
Was more Beehive was targeted.
In particular, Beehive requires a certain level of hardware, especially newer hardware, whereas OpenBSD's VMM, their goal is to be able to run on older hardware that doesn't have those CPU features. Although
I think part of it is they want to do testing and stuff inside VMs of these older systems as opposed to actually keeping the dying hardware around.
Yeah, although, as far as hardware that doesn't support hardware virtualization, I don't know that there will be much of that after a couple more years by the time VMM gets caught up. But, like you said, he had a good answer to the question.
Yeah, he did. So he said the loader currently supports FreeBSD and NetBSD as well. So they're already able to bootstrap non-OpenBSD systems. And he said after the initial commits, some other developers have now joined in to help with the work. Reich Fleuter, he did a talk as well about his company, but also talked a little bit during BeehiveCon about VMD and the VMCTL commands, how he kind of rewrote those to provide a more standard user interface, more similar to how other OpenBSD utilities work. So it was kind of neat to see. And then they talked a little bit about their future plans. This is still heavily alpha work, but they've already got some ambitious plans, such as Nexted VMX.
So that's basically running a VM inside a VM with actually passing through the hardware virtualization stuff?
Yeah, VMs all the way down. And then i386 support. They're also looking at AMD SVM support, so that's a CPU feature. Let's see, file system pass-through is another one that's on the list. They're looking at a live migration system with command syntax similar to ZFS.
Yeah, like if you see the slide here, it's VMCTL send VM name instead of dataset pipe SSH VMCTL receive.
Yeah,
it's like
wow, so that's really cool. And also, they mentioned some other developers are now working on related projects, such as a QEMU interface, which allows QEMU to be accelerated by the VMM backend while providing emulated hardware for legacy systems. So that's a neat side project as well. And also a KVM interface to make VMM look like KVM, so existing tools like OpenStack out there just kind of work. They don't have to be rewritten and changed to support VMM directly. So definitely a lot of good goals there, and of course we'll keep an eye on that and bring you more information as it happens. I imagine we'll be hearing a lot about that in the upcoming months. Just like when Beehive launched, it was like for the first year it was just fast and furious updates and new things landing all the time. So I expect to see that happening on OpenBSD side too. Okay, so at the moment I think we're ready to go ahead and do our interview in a moment with Brad Davis talking about packaging base. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Some good stuff. But before we get to it, we do need to mention our first sponsor this week, which is going to be DigitalOcean. And of course, the website for that is digitalocean.com, where you can go and immediately set up an account and deploy your FreeBSD droplet. Or heck, you can do OpenBSD in the cloud too. Do Dragonfly. There's pretty much the sky's the limit here because they give you a nice HTML5 interface, which does it all for you. And of course, we've mentioned the coupon code. Now, I think some people are still saying this does or does not.
It definitely works.
Do we ever get a? It definitely works. Okay. Gosh, I don't know what's wrong with you guys. Are you typing it wrong? But it's FreeBSD Now.
All one word.
Not BSD Now. FreeBSD Now, all one word. So, yeah, supposedly that is still good to go. So you want to use that because that's going to give you your $10 credit, which gives you 2 months worth of running their lower end droplet, which of course is still backed by SSD and gives you a terabyte of transfer a month, which is just crazy. That's why I use it. I got one of them here running a bunch of different jails for different things. So it's very cool, and I've come nowhere close to my limit, even running Mumble server. So it's definitely very cool, and you can go ahead and set yours up today, and it should just take you moments. They have data centers all around the world, so you can pick something close to you, or heck, if you're trying to put something far away, put it far away. It's nice. Choices up to you.
And then they have floating IPs, so you can move an IP address between VMs in the same data center, so you can fail over your website or whatever to do upgrades. And they have team accounts now. So, if you're more than one person and you're working on this, you can, this one person's take care of the bill, but you can let other people have varied levels of access to your account, which really shows that they're ready for more serious stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely check it out today, guys. That's at digitalocean.com. Set up your droplets. Of course, if you talk to anyone over there, tell them you heard about it here on BSD Now, and we would appreciate that. Okay, well, we're joined today at AsiaBSDCon by Brad Davis. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to come upstairs and do this with us today. We appreciate it.
Of course.
But of course, this is the first time you've been on the show, so you get the standard first-timers question. So tell us a little about your story. How did you first get involved with BSD?
Well, in 2003, a friend of mine convinced me to give it a shot, and I tried it, quickly fell in love, and within 3 months or so, all like 12 machines in my house were purged of Linux and running FreeBSD of various stages. Like, this is the 4.3 era.
Oh, okay.
So quite a while ago now.
Sure. All 12 machines. What were you running a business or something at the house already, or?
Not at that point, but
Okay.
college geek.
Sure.
So collect everything you can and play with it. And
I did that. I worked one summer at college in the IT department, and they got rid of a whole slew of computers. So, I'm taking stuff out of the dumpster, like, oh, I can put Linux on that or whatever.
Yeah, hey, sweet.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Free hardware.
Yep, for sure. Free hardware's good. So yeah, I got involved because I did start a business. I was working at this streaming music company via satellite, and basically I worked for maybe a few minutes every hour doing graveyard shifts, unless something went wrong. But generally, nothing went wrong, and so I was really, really bored and had access to the internet. So I started a web hosting company.
Of course.
Which, I mean, since there's not really a need for that anymore, but. I, of course, based that on FreeBSD, and I wanted to give back to the project, so I started submitting patches to ports that were, fixing stuff that way, and started helping out there. And I actually, that was taking too long because ports is so active.
Sure.
There's just a lot happening there. It was taking too long for me to get noticed, and I was like, I want to commit it, right? So how can I, make a bigger impact?
Yeah.
And for everyone listening along at home, Docs needs help. We have, Allan and I are both Docs committers, so contribute that way. It's a great place to get noticed, and we have good documentation, but we want to keep it that way. And there's stuff to work. Yeah, there's stuff that needs some love, and there's
new stuff, lots of new stuff.
Yeah, lots of new stuff to add.
If you like playing with new features and so on, grab the latest feature and write the docs for it.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple to do. It's XML, which is kind of
if you're getting
complicated,
started,
but it's not C either.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy.
And if you're getting started, you can just send us text, and doc people can put it in XML. It's not hard.
Yep. When they first proposed me for a docs bit, I was actually DocEng voted me down because I didn't have enough new content. There was 20 or 30 PRs or something, but they were all fixes to existing stuff.
Sure.
It wasn't any real added content.
Sure.
But then I went to my first BSDCon, and I met some of the DocEng people, and they were like, oh, this guy's really passionate about this. Let's give him a bit.
Right.
We need to get out of his way.
You just had to rub elbows in person and be like, no,
Yeah,
seriously.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that helps, right? So the conferences are wonderful. I missed the first BSDCon, so that means what? I've been to 10?
Oh, wow.
Something like that?
Yeah,
But-
it makes me feel bad. I first heard of BSDCon in 2006, but I didn't go until 2012.
Yeah.
And after
still a
that first
newbie.
time, I was like, I wish I'd been going since 2006.
Yeah.
How different would my life be right now?
Right. Yeah. And so here we are at AsiaBSDCon, right? And it's a great way to meet the community and
That's right.
participate. And I like being in the same room with people because you can talk ideas through quickly, and it shaves off months of time, like going back and forth via email or even IRC.
Yeah.
Just being in the same room with someone is so much better. Just part of that's time zones and things like that, right?
But mostly bandwidth, right?
Yeah. Or even having access to a whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
That just makes life so much easier. So it's very good.
Well, that's cool. So you got your docs commit bit. What ports did you work on back in those early days? Was it like web server related stuff, or
It must have been,
Right.
I
don't even remember?
I'm sure I could, go back to the database. Yeah, exactly.
So you started as a docs committer. Is that what your commit bit's still in, or did you do anything else? in
So
this
now
system?
I do. Now I have a ports bit. I've Brian Drury and a few other guys have been mentoring me, but I've I don't know. I'm sort of all over the place. Like I have a package bit, and so I can push to the GitHub repo, and I have a Podre bit. So I've done a bunch of work over there, and so it's kind of like, it just, as you find different things to work on, right? You get your fingers in different places, and you get access to do different things. And, so I should, amend all that by saying my first sort of goal was, I'm a sysadmin, let me help sysadmin the project resources.
Sure.
But it's really hard to come into a project like that when really the only way to come in is to be a committer, right? There isn't really a path for people to do other work. And that's being worked on, but after I got my docs bit, that made it like, oh, people know who I am, I met them at BSDCon, and so I started talking to the cluster admin team, and the postmaster teams, and so I started helping out the postmaster guys and doing that for a while, and then I started doing cluster admin work, and I'm kind of both retired from both of those, and now I'm more interested in the programming side, so now I'm doing more package work.
Okay.
So it's been an interesting ride so far.
So we bug you about package things that we want now?
Yeah.
In particular, that's why we have you here today, is to tell us about packaging base.
Yes. So I've been working on packaging base with Glenn and Baptiste for a while now, and a lot of it has been finding bugs in the build system as it is. Like, a directory will be missing, so the install script will just install the same file 3 times over the top of that because the directory is not there, and just as the directory, what the name of the directory should be. So we found that a few of those, and like submitting patches to the base system to get that fixed.
Sure.
Because package complains about that because it actually tracks all this stuff.
It monitors.
The SHA of these files is like, oh, these are all.
Isn't that kind of scary? We've gone this long and that wasn't there, and all of a sudden now you're going back like, oh my gosh, we're messing all these things.
Yeah, it's really nice that we have that now. But it also, all the work that Brian Drury's been doing in Head has been amazing for helping clean up the build system. And the build system now actually tracks this stuff too. So the build system will complain at the developer, when you do a build world or whatever, like, oh, this isn't right. You should, fix this. So now we don't have to wait for package to catch those, because
That's good.
That was taking the feedback loop there is too long, because right now the packaging base stuff is in a different projects branch, and so we'd have to merge from Head into the projects branch. Oh, here's a bug, but it's a month after that bug went in, right? So it's all this. Could have been caught earlier.
Yeah, the sooner you catch it, the more likely the person who did the work is still working in that area and hasn't context switched and is thinking about something else now, right?
Right, and the less little. I added a test to one of the make files. Is like, okay, if this is a file, go delete it, because it's not supposed to be a file. It's supposed to be a directory.
Sure.
So go delete it, recreate it as a directory, and then let the pre all the install stuff. Then the install will do the right thing. So we have that shim in for until probably 11 is released, or maybe we'll take it out when the stable 11 branch is created. But it's in there for now, so we'll see.
So the projects branch, I guess I know you guys issued a call for testing on the list. So some people started giving you feedback already. I've seen some traffic.
Yeah, there's been some good feedback and lots of questions. One of the things that people have sort of been surprised by, which is the amount of packages that are, the total number of packages that are created. So like there'll be, if you do a full build with nothing turned off, you could have 700 packages, which is not what most people would probably expect, considering we distribute 5 tarballs.
Yeah,
is really what the installer looks like.
Is huge jump.
Yeah, and so what people have to remember is the reason for that is we want all the debug stuff separate, so that you can, if you don't need that, you just don't get it, which probably 90% of people won't.
Yeah.
All the lib32 stuff, same thing. Pull that out. Profiling stuff, same thing. Most people won't need that, so pull that out. But it's easy to put all this stuff back in. If you need to, which is a good thing.
It's just a package command away now.
Yeah. If your machine's core dumping or panicking or whatever, you can add the debug stuff back in, and then you can start to debug it, and that's always a good thing. And we also have a lot of platforms that are really small, like all the work you've done for MIPS, right? I don't think will get that low into small platforms, but you know, I do a lot of ARM stuff, so I want my little BeagleBone Black or Raspberry Pi or what have you to do a packaged base, because that will make our lives much easier. So, yeah.
Well, I guess part of it is also the shared libraries are each a separate package so that the dependencies can be minimized.
Yeah, that's part of it. So there's lots of reasons, and they're, you know, it'll be surprising at first, but it's a good way to do it for enabling, you know, maximum flexibility.
Yeah,
which is one of the things I like about FreeBSD, especially with the build system, is you can turn so many little things on and off, and you know, like I used to strip out SynMail back in the day.
Don't need that. Yep.
You know, you'll be able to do that. You know, by when we get the provides require stuff in, you know, you'll be able to put it in postfix, and it will fill the dependency of an MTA so that you can pull out the SynMail from base, and
You still have an MTA. Cool.
yeah, package upgrade will be smart about that and not suck SynMail back in for you, right?
Right.
That's not going to be right out of the gates, but you know, as we go further and further.
Do you guys have a target for the provide requires stuff going into PKG? I assume needs to understand that all.
PKG does okay. It's really the ports framework that does
really?
it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll find bugs in the PKG implementation.
As we start using it.
Yeah, you got to use it, right?
Yeah.
Find all the stuff. But yeah, there's lots of features that are going to be helpful. So.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm getting ready to switch PCBSD current over to packaging base probably the next week when I get back home from this and learn to get some sleep again. But anyway, a couple questions related to that then. So as people are testing, what's the procedure look like for building packages at the moment? I assume you check out your branch and then make package or something?
So there's three commands basically: build world, build kernel like normal, and then do make packages, and you'll end up with a repo directory in that object. So if you're building from user source in user obj repo, there will be the 700 packages or whatever, depending on the knobs you have set, will all be there. And then you pretty much just package install -f those over the top of your system so that it can sort of sloppily
Register themselves.
Which we hope to fix at some point, but we may or may not do that. So that'll make life much easier. We would like to do a script like we did with the package 2NG stuff, but there's so many knobs and things that could get really messy. So I don't know if we'll go down that road.
Splat new stuff over time.
Yeah, done.
There's only going to be one transition. There's not much point in spending a lot of time dealing with it, right?
Because there's so many edge cases, just potential for failure. So just,
Who knows what the user has done to their system?
Yeah.
So I assume you have to sign the repo outside. There's no magic knobs, make release, signing command, blah blah blah.
I have no idea. So Glenn is doing most of that side of the work.
Sure.
I helped with that early on, but I had some troubles with a system at home, and so I took a little break while I got all that sorted. But so that stuff is, I mean, he's one of the release engineers, so he owns a lot of that anyway. So we'll see what happens there, because I'm sure he'll be interested in talking to you about that too, because you have to do it, we have to do it. Let's
We're all
collaborate.
Killing the same dragons here.
I'm. So this is a shameless plug. I'm the founder of the AsiaBSD project, and which is part of my motivation for working on packaging base is, there's no release image for, Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone Black or whatever. So I want to have you want to be able to track current on my little devices, and I want to just be able to do package upgrade and come back in 10 minutes and be done.
Sure.
Right? It makes life so much easier.
For sure. Yeah. Building source sucks on a play.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm looking forward to with package base was when we have project branches or some committer has a patch he wants people to test. It's like, here's the repo config file, splat it on your system, package upgrade. Now you have that testing version, try it out.
Yeah.
No more, here, apply this patch to a source tree of, it has to be exactly this version for the patch to apply. Build it, install it.
Yeah. Well, just like the Haswell stuff that just went in, right?
Yeah. That would have been so much easier to test.
Yeah. Just point at this repo, have a nice day, right? Good to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having like generic and then generic with witness, and you can go back and forth like without again having to recompile. It's just a boot option. Which one do you want? So, well, that's great. Well, packaging base sounds exciting. So is the plan, I guess, 11.0, this is going to be officially a thing?
That's the target, yeah.
Okay. Does that mean retiring FreeBSD Update officially for 11?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
We may keep it around just as a fail-safe for
Sure.
people that are not using package base, but I won't speak to that really because that's security officer, and
Sure.
I'm not making those decisions. So.
Sure.
But I think that's the goal at least. We'll see what happens. We may keep it side by side just as a temporary thing for 11.0 or something.
Okay. That sounds fantastic. So can I replace OpenSSL with Libra in the base? Is that going to, are we
That's a
getting
good-
close?
Well, that goes back to the provider requires thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, it's all possible, yes.
Okay, but it's exciting to see some of these doors starting to open. Like
Yeah.
there's some stuff we can do now.
Yeah, some of them may be rat holes.
Yeah.
Who knows?
At least we have the option, though.
Right.
Have
Yeah, for sure.
you have any other questions, Alan? Or?
Not really. Did we cover everything you had on your list here?
Yeah, so I guess you could mention I'll give you the URL to the call for testing so you can
Yes.
put that in the
Yes.
show notes.
Yeah, we'll
And,
definitely provide that.
The mailing list is just FreeBSD-package base in the on the FreeBSD list server.
Okay.
So
Perfect. Well,
join us.
I'm hopeful and also a little worried. You might get a lot of feedback from our users when we push it in, except we'll see. Try and write a nice email like, this is how you report bugs. Don't just spam these guys.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate the filtering, but
Yeah.
we need to know about the bugs too.
Sure. So, but yeah, we'll look forward to it, and hopefully you'll be hearing more from us as well.
Excellent.
So could you tell us a bit more about the RASBSD?
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to have a FreeBSD image on all my little ARM machines, and I wanted to have a FreeBSD image that included more than just the base OS, like the builds that the release engineers do. That's just FreeBSD. There's no extras.
Sure.
So my goal, which I've gotten sort of halfway there, is to do both that sort of a build, just a stripped down, console-ish type machine or, headless thing. But I also wanted to ship a image that was like more of a fully featured, boots to X, PCBSD for
Sure.
ARM.
Sure.
Something that would be usable. So, the Raspberry Pi is great in education
HDMI
space.
port, and kind of put something on the screen.
Right. It's such a great educational tool. So I wanted to help with that. And the foundation is doing things like there's a few different classes that are being offered. Like Robert Watson is doing the classes at Cambridge.
Yeah.
But those are like master's level, right?
Yeah,
But those are all
correct.
done on a big old blown black, which is like that's great, right?
Yeah.
Here's a $35 thing you can go buy and do master's level coursework on. That's really amazing. All the way down to Justin Gibbs was doing a sixth graders, I think, class in Colorado, and so I went and helped him with that, and we helped set up all the big old and blacks, and he was teaching all the kids, which was pretty interesting to see because there's even there's a lot of very intelligent kids, right? It was like a gifted class.
Sure.
But
Still, it's
ADD
great.
is a very strong thing. Whether or not it's, like legitimate ADD,
just
but just
YouTube
kids.
addiction.
Yeah, short attention spans, they all have cell phones, right? Like it was very interesting to watch. And some of them actually picked up on some of the programming concepts fairly quickly. I was really impressed.
That's cool.
But yeah, just having something like that is like, oh, here, play with this other thing, right? Because so many kids are used to like Windows or Mac OS,
Yeah.
which is, those things are fine, right? They have their place. But, if they want to
If you throw them into a serial console, you're like,
right,
What
yeah.
is
and
this?
We want to
Where's my mouse?
we want to expose them to other things, right? So the education is a great target. I was also very interested in what is XBMC called now? Cody, yeah.
Cody, yeah.
Cody. I was talking with Adrian Chad a little bit about that a while back, and so maybe we do a build that has all the Cody stuff pre-set up so that you could just,
That's your extension.
Instant Media Center.
yeah, Instant Media Center, right? All running FreeBSD and
Backed by your FreeNAS box.
exactly, yeah, backed by all this ZFS goodness.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to have those available.
Yeah, it's a very interesting project. So at some point I need to put more of that on GitHub. I've got some of the stuff, like I wrote a little C program that like flashes the LED on the BeagleBone Black, so when you boot it, you can at least tell that, hey, it's doing something.
Sure.
It's up and running. I can do something to it. There's like the Linux image that's on there. There's like 4 LEDs that, like one of them is disk IO, one of them is just the blinking I'm turned on, and then there's like Ethernet send and receive or something. So I wanted to at least have the blinking, hey, I'm on, so when you're not, connected via serial console, you can actually see that it's doing something. And
that's cool.
It's ready. So yeah, it's been an interesting project, and I've been started working on the Tim Kinsel's.
Yeah.
I think I butchered his last name, but his crochet tool. So I started submitting patches to that to make it do different things, and working with the ARM guys to get support for, Raspberry Pi 2 and like all this stuff. And it's been very interesting. So
That's cool.
So package base and RasBSD will probably be one of the first consumers if you don't beat me to it. But
we'll see how much
friendly
time I have,
competition.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And friendly competition is great.
Fair, you have a little more experience with it so far. So
Right.
Starting from scratch, but
Yeah, but it's pretty easy. So
it's going to be fun. Well, we can find the bugs together. That's
Yes,
gonna be great.
exactly.
Great. Okay.
I look forward to having a packaged base for my stuff too.
Yes. Yes. And I don't have to run FreeBSD update server and a VM anymore every time a security update comes out, so my life just got a lot easier.
Yes.
It's great.
It'd be really nice to have security updates turn around in like an hour and stuff.
Yeah. I can literally go to Jenkins now. Done. Okay.
Yeah.
Security updates are ready.
Yeah, that will be awesome.
That would be very
Life
awesome.
So much easier.
Yeah, great. Well, cool. Well, hey, this has been fantastic. So we appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. And
Of course.
we're going to be following Packaging Base with much interest and bringing you all the latest on it. And as
Yeah.
it gets pushed into mainline, do you guys have a timetable yet on when you want to try and push it in?
That's a good question. Probably not yet. Glenn will have to answer that.
Okay.
He's really doing the base side of this project, and I've been hacking on package.
All right. So just sometime before 11, it'll land.
Yeah, hopefully sooner than later, just so that we can get
Yeah.
Testing time.
Well, more testing time, but it's. I would have liked to have seen it gone in earlier, but because it doesn't really change how the rest of the system works. If you don't type make packages, you can't tell. Yeah. So why not just merge that, and then unless someone types make package, they have no idea.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen it go in earlier, but
Okay.
here's where we're at, which is fine, and we'll get it in, and it'll be ready. And it'll be much nicer.
Yes, fantastic. Well, great. We appreciate it. And
problem.
we'll be back to the show in just a moment. Okay, we're back from the interview. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Be sure to check out Packaging Base, coming soon to a repo near you. Or if you wait next month, hopefully we'll have it in PCBSD's next month image of current. So,
But more instructions
see
on
what
that coming up in
interesting
just a minute.
yeah, so we'll see what interesting stuff breaks there. But before we get to those instructions, of course, we got to mention our next sponsor this week, which is going to be IX Systems. And of course, URL for that, ixsystems.com/BSDNow, where you want to go get in touch with those guys about all the new awesomeness coming out. I think I saw even a new FreeNAS is in the works, a new Mini. So we'll have to get some details on that down the road for you. But of course, talk to those guys. Call them up. Don't necessarily say, I want this hardware first. Tell them what you're going to do with it. Like, what kind of performance do you need? What goals that you're trying to achieve? What's the minimum performance you're willing to accept? And then of course, our sales engineers will be able to help you design the system, which will do everything and more that you need. And, they're really good at that kind of stuff because they know about these things. They're not just sales bots telling you, oh, we have this one on the shelf. Here's our latest models, the E1000, whatever. Oh, no. These guys will customize it and build it, of course, to your specifications. So it's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And, of course, at a price that's very reasonable.
So there's a blog post here that says, every so often, IX is asked whether they sell desktops. And the answer is yes. They don't get that many requests for them, but just like their servers, they can custom build a desktop suitable for each client's different use cases and go through the same, and those machines go through the same testing and burn-in process as a server.
That's right. I've seen them do a few of those over the years, and they'll build some pretty wild desktops too. So if you need a high-end one, maybe maybe you don't even want to run BSD on it. Maybe you're looking for something for your new VR box because, the Rift is coming and these new VR things are coming out. Get in touch with IX. They can get you set up with one of those as well. But, of course, they will give you the white glove service the whole way through, and you need to try it out. That way you can be a part of the happy IX team. So let's see. Website address again for that. ixsystems.com/BSDNow. And when you talk to them, let them know you heard about it here because they love talking to our listeners.
Yeah,
I
know Michael Lucas had them build his desktop that he needed. He's like, I need a machine with a whole bunch of disks in it to write books about ZFS. And so they built him a nice machine that was lots of disks, but still going to be quiet enough he could have it on his desk and then not bother him.
That's right. So, and of course, that's again working with the customer to produce exactly what the customer wants. So definitely let them do that for you as well with your next system. So get in touch with those guys today. Okay, so speaking of packaging base, we teased it a little bit, but right before, I think this was right before we came out to Tokyo, right after the show last week. But AsiaBSDCon, they talked about it a bunch there, but an official call for testing for the new packaging base stuff for FreeBSD is now out. So this is something I know we've been waiting for a while. It's been in the works for a while, but they're now officially ready for people to start trying it. So specifically, users are requested to check out. There's a package or a release-package branch in SVN, or if you pull it from the Git mirrors, you can do that too. And you pretty much build it as normal. So if you've never done that before, it's basically 2 steps. You have build world and build kernel. But when it comes to installations time, instead of running make install world, you run make packages, which will then do the new thing and end up producing a package repo in the user object directory, OBJ. So, which is pretty cool. So now you have all your packages. So the post to the mailing list also demos an example of how you'd set up a package repo config file to point to those packages. So how you can teach package where it is. I don't see it in the notes here, but I think there was a patch to PKG as well you need to apply.
I'm not sure if you still need to do that now that it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, it might already be in the port. Double check that before you get started. Make sure you have the latest version of PKG. And if not, you may need to refer to the mailing list there and grab that patch. So check that out. But once you've got it all set up, you can pretty much run package upgrade --r FreeBSD base, which will that'll go through and read all the metadata from the repository and copy it locally. And then you run package install -g FreeBSD -foo or asterisk or whatever, and that will go ahead and find all the packages that start with FreeBSD and install them. So I think the first time, though, you have to run, I'm not sure if the -g does that, but -f, you have to force the registration on top of it. That was something they discussed at the Dev Summit, because you have to splat on top of all the binaries already on your disk and register them with PKG. So,
but the -g flag is what makes the star get expanded.
Okay, so that's not it. I think you may have to throw a -f on there too, because it's like, all these files already exist. But anyway, just pay attention to that when you're doing the setup. In the future, and this is something we talked a lot about at the Dev Summit, they're going to be trying to set up meta packages so you can install FreeBSD base and it'll pull in all the other packages as dependency. And the reason for that is right now they have the system broken down into a lot of different packages. It looks like over 700 of them. And because each shared library is packaged separately, and pretty much all optional features are in a separate package. So that's really tedious if you want to do all those by hand. So a meta package will make sense and help make that a heck of a lot.
Right. Plus, you'll be able to, for example, install FreeBSD base, which won't include FreeBSD-whatever-debug and FreeBSD-whatever-profiling. But if you do install FreeBSD-debug, it'll pull in all those debug things for you. So you'll be able to add and remove those more easily, right? So you can run it, works fine. Oh, I have a problem. Let me install the debug symbols. I can debug it. Okay, I'm done with that. Package delete FreeBSD-debug or FreeBSD-meta-debug or whatever, and they all go away. So yeah, once those are together, the number of packages you actually install will be much less. For now, it's basically assuming, and part of the reason to be broken up so much as like it is because they needed to be able to say, well, if you want to be able to say turn off installing SendMail, we need to make sure SendMail's in a separate package. But some library that normally comes with SendMail, but you use somewhere for some other tool or something is separate. At this point, it's about getting it working, not about it being perfect and pretty.
So we will, of course, be finding all the bugs for it in the next couple months and trying to get this ready, because the plan is to try and make this the default for 11.0. So definitely, if you get a chance, try and test this and help us shake loose all these bugs. So I think the meta packages, we talked about it with Brad in the interview, but the idea of maybe having them just be the same as the dist files right now. So you have base, kernel, and was it lib32, doc, etc. So I think that may be the way to go. We'll see if that ends up being what happens. Okay, here. So let's see. So work is still ongoing. And then, of course, we interviewed, after the interview was recorded with Brad, I guess Bapt and Brad got together and had another whiteboarding session where they came up with how they expect to handle the kernel package.
Right, because the big thing with the kernel is, unlike most of your other stuff, you don't want to just overwrite it. You want to keep the old one so that, or, the one oldest one, or the second newest one, whatever you want to say, so that you can boot up kernel.old if the first one doesn't work, and so on.
Yeah, and of course we talked about also at the Dev Summit, we talked about having multiple kernels. So maybe you have the new i915 kernel or something. So having those, land in the bootloader would be pretty awesome, where you can now pick from them. Oh, I just package installed it, and here goes something. So we'll definitely need to see how that happens.
Expanding the bootloader menu's support for picking the kernel is on my to-do list now. Based on the Dev Summit.
Oh, great. Yes. Well, that'll be a neat feature. I know we'll all look forward to having that.
And then I know Brad was working on being able to flag the important system components like libc and the kernel as vital. I think originally it was supposed to be precious, but the Warren and some other docs people pointed out that what does that really mean? And sure, it's a funny reference to a movie, but...
I don't like vital. I don't like. Just call it base, or just call it essential.
Yeah, essential is a good word.
4-letter word. It's easy. I don't know. Base for EBSD something. I don't know. That's what I like.
But this is basically so you can't accidentally delete files that are critical for your system to work.
Yep.
However, they had to come up with a way that you can still do that in the case where you're using, say, package to install base to create a jail. So you're saying, take this base stuff and throw it in the chroot or this directory for a jail, or to make a image for your router or whatever, and I want to be able to uninstall anything. It's like, sure, it's fine that I'm deleting libc from my jail, and so how to make it so that you can still do that, but you're not going to accidentally shoot your foot off.
That's right. Well, I think it should be smart enough to know. Okay, you've given it the -c flag
or -r or whatever,
jail or something. And then it knows, okay, I will let you do this. Maybe I will print a warning, just informing you that's what you're doing. But I'll at least let you do it or something. I don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But I'm sure there's going to be lots of work and ongoing changes happening to it in the next couple months, kind of to get it all shaked out and prepared for 11.0. Okay, so our next item here, we have FreeBSD 10.3. So no, we haven't forgotten about that. That is still right on the verge of happening here. Looks like 10.3 RC2 is now available. So, of course, this is the second release candidate. It's up for testing now. Some of the notable changes of what got fixed in it, though, is there was an upstream fix for ZFS send-I, which helps avoid some data corruption on very specific instances. So you may want to take a look at that. Also, bootloaders in the kernel have been taught to handle ELF specification or sections of a type SHT AMD64 unwind. This doesn't necessarily really apply to 10.3, but it's going to be required for 11.0. So it's good that this is going in a little earlier to make the upgrading path easier. Let's see what else. We have some make DB commands, various ones such as etc services, login.conf, etc. Those commands now use fsync instead of opening the files as osync, which of course is going to increase the speed of the database generation.
Yeah, so some extra stuff was added to make sure that those files were completely written before they got overwritten, or before the new version overwrote the old one. And in doing so, they ended up making it take like 10 minutes on a modestly fast computer, because it was writing each line to services one at a time and then syncing to the disk all the way. Whereas doing it this way, where you stream it all out, and when you're done, you said, all right, now wait until that's all done. Now it's back to taking a couple seconds instead of minutes.
I guess work's ongoing to fix these issues also for 11. There's a couple open issues. So a fix for OpenSSH, the CVE 2016-3115 still hasn't been included yet. So we're looking for that.
Yeah, that's the OpenSSH X11 forwarding thing. from a while.
Oh, okay. And also the re-addition of the AES CBC ciphers to the default server proposal list. So AES CBC was removed as part of the update to OpenSSH version 7.1 P2. But the plan is to re-add it specifically for some lightweight clients who rely on hardware crypto offload to have acceptable SSH performance.
Right, and whereas, there's no offload chip that does cha-cha and so on yet.
Not yet, right?
And then from beta 3, there was the VFS improvements that were made. Those have been reverted because they were causing ZFS to hang. Kirk and myself and some other people are still working on solving that for 11, but because the solution wasn't immediately obvious or forthcoming, that change was reverted from FreeBSD 10, so it will continue to work the way things worked before the VFS update. And then George's try-forward routing code that basically uses fast forwarding all the time also had to be reverted because it would cause a problem with ICMP messages when you tunneled them over OpenSSH or OpenVPN. There's some path MTU discovery problem, and the response would go out the wrong interface or something.
Sure.
I don't know if that's fixed in 11 or not yet, but it's going to be where it wasn't going to be ready in time for 10.3.
Yeah, it's not for 10.3, which is fine. 11.0 is not too far out as well now.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're asking folks, please go on out and test. So if you plan on upgrading to 10.3 or have any interest in it, test those things, make sure everything's working.
Yeah, they have both the installer images and VM images, so you can just start with a already installed VM if you want.
Okay.
There are only some minor changes to the installer, so if you have the time, please go through the installer too. But
Okay. So speaking of releases, we also have another point release of OpenSense has dropped. So apart from a couple of the usual security updates, which seems like hits every release now, we have some new features as well. And we got a little bit of a list of them here. We'll just go through a couple of them. So first up, the firmware bootstrap utility now can be directly installed. So in other words, you can get the development version. Looks like all the GUI pages for DHCP have been reworked, so they look a little nicer. Proxy added ICAP support. Looks like that was contributed by a user there. Transparent FTP proxy has been hooked up. They've added some intercept on IPv6 for FTP and HTTP proxies. Logging. Syslog facilities like services are now pluggable. That's cool. We have some VPN stuff for stripping off invalid PPTP headers or from standard config. All the GUI pages have been reworked for the DY and DNS stuff and include IPv6 entries as well now. So that's good. Let's see. DNS forwarder, GUI pages updated. DNS resolver, GUI pages have also been updated. So it looks like there's been some nice user interface updates to this release. And interfaces, they fixed some bugs with VLAN tags that weren't getting generated properly. And IPsec fixed some problems restarting the services from the GUI. And I think just some miscellaneous other stuff. Oh, some bug fixes to the traffic shaper, fix mismatch for direction when you have dual interfaces set up. And also German and French language support has been updated. So yeah, definitely looks like a lot of new little features and bug fixes in this new release. So if you're running your OpenSense box, you'll need to go ahead and update, get those latest good new things. Okay, so what's this last one here? It looks like ASLR. I know we haven't talked about that in a little while on FreeBSD side. So what do we had something new happen in that space. What's going on?
Yes, Konstantin Blausov has posted a patch, which is a first pass implementation of basic address space layout randomization for FreeBSD. And so he talks a bit about it and how it'll work. But he says it doesn't implement everything yet. There's no stack gap between different programs, and there's no WXRX or shared page randomization or kernel ASLR. But all of those are out of scope of this particular work, which was just to get the basic ASLR in. But that's all stuff that will come over time. He said ASLR is enabled on a per ABI basis and currently is only enabled on native i386 and AMD64. Although for AMD64, that includes Compat32. So you get those. He says he expects to test and enable ASLR on ARM v6, which is the Raspberry Pi, and ARM 64, which is the Pi 3 and the Cavium boards and so on, in future work based on this. And he says, special thanks to Oliver Pinter and Sean Webb of the Hardened BSD project for pursuing ASLR on FreeBSD. Although Constantine's patch here is not based on their work, it was inspired by the effort that they put into this.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, that's neat. We'll have to see if people can try that out. Of course, report any breakage back so he can get that tested and hopefully committed here soon. And in time for 11, we'll be able to have that feature. Okay, so we got feedback and questions to get to, but really quick, before we do that, we're going to have to talk about our next sponsor this week, which is going to be Tarsnap. And of course, the website for that, tarsnap.com/BSDNow. Come on, pretty simple, pretty basic, but there's no reason not to go get signed up today, or you can get set up in a few moments with a new account. You can download a client. Of course, they have binaries available for just about everything under the sun, but if you're truly paranoid, which, hey, a lot of us are, you can always go download the source, compile it yourself, so you can be sure that the binary you're running is exactly what it claims to be, no more, no less, which is pretty cool. How many backup solutions offer that? Not many that I know of, if any at all. So definitely need to go check that out today. Of course, everything's measured in pico dollars, so if you're just backing up small bits of data that's not changing a lot, heck, it's going to be very, very cheap. So no reason not to do it. And of course, it'll save your hide down the road. Anything you want to add to that one, Alan?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, let's hop right into questions and feedback then. So first up, we have a Daniel this week. And it looks like he's talking about helping OpenZFS. You want me to read this one? Or
I'll take a crack at it.
Okay.
He says, my name is Daniel, and I work as an infrastructure specialist on an online gaming company. I have over 15 years of experience with Linux and knowing the best and the worst of the IT field. I'm currently living in South Africa, and for the last 10 years, he was living in South Africa, but for the last 10 years, he's been in Brazil, and now he speaks Portuguese and English now. Lately, he says, I've been doing some amazing things with ZFS at work, and the people are amazing to see what can be done with a file system. As my contribution to the project, I would like to know if it would be able to work with the team that does the translation of documentation for the OpenZFS project. He says, I'm not a developer, but I really want to contribute, and I have a favor to that for OpenBSD. Well, interestingly, at AsiaBSDCon, there was a presentation and a tutorial about working with the translation system for the FreeBSD documentation. So I don't think OpenZFS has anything like that set up. But, getting the FreeBSD handbook sections on ZFS converted into Portuguese would definitely be of value.
Sure. Yeah, that
so
would be great.
you should check out the translation project stuff that the FreeBSD docs people are doing. And I think that'd be the best place to get started with translating ZFS documentation.
Great. Well, and of course, if that changes down the road and they do add other translations, of course, get involved there, and we'll mention that.
I think for the strings built into ZFS itself, I think they're already set up for get text. So I think PO translations of those could be done fairly easily as well. Okay. I know that the original code we inherited from Solaris had that already, so maybe it's just a matter of updating it.
Sure.
I just haven't looked into that.
Cool. Okay, next up we have Florian, who writes in asking about JBODs. He says, hey guys, how would you build your pools with multiple JBODs connected to one server? If I had more than one of these, I wouldn't want the whole pool to go down if the box with the disks inside goes dark. So let's say you have two JBODs of 12 disks, mirrors between disks of both pools, or RAID Z1 in case of 3 JBODs. I care more about the data than the performance, so I go with RAID Z2 where I can. But when I have 2 JBODs with VDEVs of 6 disks split between them, I'll lose more than a couple than the pool can handle when one JBOD goes down anyway. Yeah. So it says, bonus question, where to place the SSDs for L2ARC and ZIL in such a scenario?
So if you have only 2, I would just recommend mirrors. It's the best way. If you have 3, though, you could do RAID Z2 with 2 disks on each of the 3 JBODs at a time per VDEV. And then if any, one of the 3 JBODs goes dark, it's fine. But in the end, it depends what your requirements are, because as long as, you're going to be able to swap the power supply and get the JBOD back online without the disks being gone, if it's okay with your machine going down when the JBOD goes out and you can bring it back up when you reconnect it, then, it's not as big of a deal, right? As long as you get all the original disks back, you don't actually lose the pool.
Sure.
But if you need it to stay online the whole time, then yes, spreading your disks across different JBODs so that any one JBOD going down or losing its path or whatever doesn't take you out is probably the best bet. For L2 Arc and ZIL, it depends. I would probably put them in the head unit, like the machine that's actually connected to the JBODs. But
not in the JBODs.
You could put one in each JBOD and mirror them together, make a 3D mirror or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, otherwise just put them right in the head system or the master system itself. Okay, so next up we have a question about SSL setup from Hunter. He said, "Hi again, my web server setup on DigitalOcean is nearly complete. I have, however, hit a few snags in that I can't find a decent guide on how to set up SSL certificates. Either the guide is out of date," he says, "I found one that was using FreeBSD 4.3. That's a little out of date. He said, or the instructions don't make sense. One advised that I make it SSL certificate authority and root SSL CA as an example. He says, DigitalOcean did not have a tutorial on getting this done. Do you know of a good tutorial for getting SSL certificates set up? And as an added bonus, mandatory enforcing a redirect to the HTTPS version of my site." They're out there.
yeah,
I've Googled, used them in the past.
It depends what kind of certificate you want. If you're getting a certificate from a CA, the instructions from FreeBSD 4.3 are probably pretty much right, except for you have to make a bigger key now.
Sure.
But almost every SSL certificate authority that sells certificates will have instructions that you can just follow. Right? The open SSL commands are the same on BSD as they are on Linux and so on.
I know, Let's Encrypt is new, and there's plenty of new tutorials.
We've covered one or two Let's Encrypt tutorials previous weeks on BSD Now. I would say that, the Savage Lights Let's Encrypt tutorial is probably the best bet for that. The one that was advising you to create your own SSL certificate authority, that works if you don't need the certificate to be trusted. But there's no reason to do that now that Let's Encrypt exists. Before Let's Encrypt, it was the way to get one for free. But now with Let's Encrypt, you might as well just do their thing.
Mm-hmm. And there should be tutorials on that. And as far as redirects, just look up Apache or Nginx redirects.
Yeah, if it's Nginx, it's quite easy. You just a separate server block on port 80 that just redirects to the port 443.
Mm-hmm. So that should be all you need to do. All right, well, let us know if you have any more problems with that, Hunter. Let's see. Next up is Benjamin talking about backups. So he says, "Hey there. After listening to your podcast a couple months, I decided to give Tarsnap a try in January and deposited $15. All in all, I like Tarsnap very much, but as they say, people really don't care about backups. What they care about is recovery. I had the opportunity to find out about that part very recently. Last weekend, my FreeBSD server kind of died, i.e. the micro SD card the root file system was on died. Otherwise, the server's fine. The ZFS pool is unharmed, and I had to reinstall it. What I mostly wanted back were my config files, and restoring them from the recent backup worked, like a charm, actually. I did learn having a few files would have liked back, though, that I'm backing up now, too, from now on, but that's life. So yes. I guess he had a few more files he wished he had backed up.
A couple files he forgot to back up and now wishes he had. Yep.
But he said having backups available, though, is priceless. And as long as one does not back up an entire video store or something, Tarsnap is really, really cheap. Cheap enough that it becomes a viable option for a small home server. Well, I use it here for that, too. So he said, thank you so much for bringing transit to my attention and keep up the good work because I really like your show. Kinds of cards, Benjamin.
I imagine if that meant Tarsnap. Silly autocorrect.
I think so. Right?
Yeah.
I was just going to let it go. It is what it is. Okay, Benjamin. Well, we're glad it saved your hide. Don't forget, it can save your hide out there, too. So be like Benjamin, get your backups, and make sure you back up more than you think you'll need, because odds are later you'll want that file back. Okay, so next up is from Damien. He says, hello, Chris and Allan. First of all, I want to say I love the show. I am a self-taught freelance web developer mainly building Drupal sites. I had the good fortune of starting to get BSD curious after about a month before BSD's Now's first episode and your podcast, especially the tutorials are what helped me transition away from Linux. I am now all in with FreeBSD and couldn't be happier. I'm getting my isolation fix with Jails, and I have to admit I breathe a huge sigh of relief every time I see a news article about the sad state of affairs with LXC and all of its fragmented implementations. No more distro hopping for me either. I've been using FreeBSD with i3WM and Vim as my primary tool set, which is great. When 11.0 hits, I plan on moving my workstation to PCBSD, and I don't think I'll be moving away from that setup for a very long time. It's nice to have finally settled on some rock-solid tools and just focused on getting work done without distractions. He says, anyway, the real reason I'm writing to you is regarding another viewer who had emailed you featured in episode 118. He said, I believe he said his name was Adam from Maryville, Tennessee. He wrote in asking about BSD user groups in Southeast Tennessee. I live about 30 minutes north of Chattanooga, an hour south of Knoxville, and would love to have a local bug. If Adam or anybody else would like to start a bug in Chattanooga or Knoxville, I'd be very interested in helping. Please pass my info along, and perhaps we can get something going. Thanks again for the great show. You guys rock. Well, that's interesting. So I have to go look that up too, because I'm also in Maryville, and of course Knoxville's not too far, and if you're north of Chattanooga, it's not far either. So we might have to set something up here. So shoot, do I need to set up a mailing list or something? Like maybe we need to do starting your own bug from scratch.
Well, we've done an interview about that. With, when the Colorado bug started, and Michael Lucas has a series of blog posts where he started the Southeast Michigan bug. Or helped start, anyway. And they've been talking about their experience with getting that started.
Well, I would be interested in attending it, and I know there's a few other workers at my office who could probably go to that as well. So, shoot, Damien, if you or Adam, if we can get together and maybe get this sucker organized. I don't necessarily have a lot of time to organize it myself, but I wouldn't mind coming. So I'd be happy to do a talk or presentation on something even if you'd like. So definitely let's stay in touch, and maybe we can make that happen here in the near future. And then on a future episode, I'll announce where it's going to be and when. That would be really cool. Okay, so thanks for writing in, Damien. So, of course, as we close the show out, we want to tell everyone, first of all, send your questions, comments. If you have any show ideas or topics or stories you want mentioned on the show, send it to feedback@bsdnow.tv. I know we'd appreciate that. And yes, we still have a lot of things we didn't get to this week because we're a little tired from Tokyo, but we will try and get caught up in the upcoming weeks. So keep those things coming in, and, of course, we will get to them as soon as possible. We appreciate you sending stuff in there. Of course, Twitter's great, and all those other things are great, but we don't necessarily see all those. So feedback@bsdnow.tv really is the best way to get in touch with us and make sure we see it. So, of course, we'll be back same time next week with a new episode, and we'll see which interview, if we use another one from Tokyo or if we have something live. But either way, it should be interesting. So, of course, we'll look forward to seeing you same time next week.